Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome back to the Onyx Tavern Vlog series on Resha Sentai ToQger. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, and today we're going to talk about the final station, the Shining Ones. So here we are, the final episode of Resha Sentai ToQger. How does it stack up? Now, as I said in my previous video, there haven't been any bad series finals in my mind. And I hesitate to call this one a bad one, but more of an underwhelming one would be the best way to describe it. Because I felt that a lot of what was going on here felt rather anticlimactic. Because you knew what was going to happen. You knew they were going to defeat Zet in some way. You knew that they would go back to their towns. And you even kind of know at this point that their Zords are not going to be destroyed, that the Rainbow Line will not be destroyed in a massive battle, that the Hyper Resha and Diesel and Bill Dio and all those guys would still be around at the end. You know, very rarely do they do that thing where they destroy the Zords anymore. But this is kind of by the numbers, and it does actually have one really good moment in it, but it can't overshadow how bland the rest of it is. Again, it's not even it's bad, it's just bland. So let's kind of get into what exactly happened. So, as we actually left off in the previous episode, and I didn't really bring this up because, again, I didn't feel like it was significant at that point, but it is kind of significant here. The setup just wasn't made to make it seem that way. That Wright is trapped in the darkness, and at this point, he's kind of given up. He's like, I can't defeat it with the Rainbow Line. I can't defeat it with darkness. I couldn't defeat it with the team. I couldn't defeat it by myself. So what's the point anymore? So he's kind of given up at this point. But lo and behold, the other ToQger come in, having been able to penetrate the darkness in the Rainbow Line and bring Wright aboard on the Rainbow Line. Now, this is a scene that absolutely had to happen, and I wish they could have done something different with it. So basically, they're pissed as hell for Wright doing what he did and leaving them back there. But instead of punching the guy out like I would if I was in that situation, they basically just, restate the fact that they're all friends and we're supposed to do things together. And this is our journey, not your journey, and you have been an idiot about it. And the thing is, this was okay. It's predictable in the fact that they don't do what you should be doing in this situation. Now, again, any reasonable television show or any type, if you took this with any other science fiction show and replaced Wright with the captain, the commander, the lead man, whoever and stuff, and then the other four ToQger as his subordinates, and he pulled this off, leaving them behind while he went to fight and erasing their memories and stuff, they'd be effing pissed and try to punch him and kill him or whatever and stuff and get back at him for this. Now, the ToQger don't do that because, well, again, they're children and they think in childlike scenarios, and forgiveness is the key here. Because that does seem to be a running theme in Sentai, is this talk of forgiveness and unforgivable action and things like that. But it just seemed like to me that Wright needed to be put in a position where they basically say this is BS and you screwed up, man. But it's not really handled that way. And again, I don't hate Wright, but I think he's one of the most ineffectual leaders we have. I mean, could you imagine Geki from Ranger doing this? Could you imagine Ryu from Jetman doing this? Could you imagine Marvelous from GoFundMe doing this? I don't think any of those guys would end up doing this to the rest of their team. And yes, he is a child in an adult's body, and he thinks like a child. But the series also points out that they've grown up over the series, that they've become more mature. Not smarter, mind you, but more mature. And it doesn't seem Wright has become more mature. And this episode continues the proof of that because, again, his plan was stupid. Everybody went along with it. And now when it's time to throw it in his face, they're all like, dude, not cool. All right, we're friends again. I mean, that's kind of how it feels. That's really how it feels there. But also to this is also a little bit of short-sightedness on everybody's part because they reached Wright, they got to him, and now they're stuck and they have no way of getting out. Now, the way of getting out, I don't know how you describe it other than Huh? All right. So remember the whole thing I went off about his family not remembering him and leaving no physical evidence and all that kind of stuff? Well, apparently there is something within Wright's mother to create a lantern with a star on it, because when she thinks of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, something just comes to mind and she's not sure what, and she paints this little lantern with a star and puts it on the steps to the temple. Somehow this can be seen through the darkness. Because at this point, while they were putting that lantern down on the temple steps, the darkness overtook them, and that's the moment that they were frozen in when Zet's darkness came through. But somehow the ToQger are able to see this through the darkness. It's not really explained how. I'm guessing it's either quantum or imagination. And the light creates a rail track that not only leads them out of the darkness, but somehow counteracts the entire darkness and dissolves it. Here's the thing, and I've said this many times, but I'll say it again. Whenever a hero is put into a problem, they have to think their way out, talk their way out, or fight their way out. The ToQger do not do any of those things. This is literal Deus Ex Machina. God from a machine. God has come to save them. And why do I say it's God that comes to save them? Because I do believe there is some sort of religious allegory going on here, or at the very least, some sort of religious message. Because consider for the fact that stars are very prevalent in a lot of religions. That they are on the temple steps, going to what I assume is going to be a Shinto shrine. If not, I don't know why they're going up those stairs and to what exactly. And that it is memory and maybe even a little bit of faith, because again, religion, probably religious location they're in, that is bringing them back. That there is some sort of divine intervention going on that is saving the ToQger. Which is why I say literal Deus Ex Machina, because the only explanation for this is that God has come to save them, because somebody has come to a Shinto shrine, Shinto temple, Amaterasu saw this and said, you know what, I'm going to save you guys by using the power of light. And again, it destroys the darkness and allows the rainbow line to come out, and apparently more powerful than ever, because it even gives them an idea to finally link all the trains together, which they do to destroy the castle terminal monster, which that's another anticlimactic thing, because you think they were going to have this big drawn out battle with the castle terminal, because I could imagine it's something along the lines of what we got in the Chase in the Space Part 1, where the Rangers battle with their Megazords, they get chopped to bits and pieces, and the only thing they can think to do is to self-destruct it, and that doesn't even work, and they have to fall back on some sort of elaborate plan. And that actually would have worked to the series' advantage, because what is this supposed to be? It's supposed to be a series about light and dark, yes. But more importantly, if you were to say there was a greater power to ToQger, what would it be? I mean, for the Kyuryuger, it's brave. We know that. We know Go Buster, it's the Buddy Roids. But what is it for ToQger? It's imagination. That is what powers them. That is what powers the rainbow line. That's what allows them to see the rainbow line and gain the powers of ToQger in the first place. So if that's the case, then why isn't imagination actually used in this final battle? Why isn't something creative done to defeat Zet? Something creatively done to defeat this giant monster? If we're not going to go by the numbers and big blowout battle, then how come nothing creative happens? Oh, sure, you can say, yeah, they linked up trains and rammed the damn thing. I mean, that's cool and that's something you can do, but I would hardly call that creative or imaginative. I mean, anybody would think to go ahead and do that. Where is the imagination in this final attack that is able to go ahead and save them? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Where is the imagination? If that's what the whole premise of the series is the power of imagination, then why don't they imagine something defeating Zet? Why don't they imagine something cool? Imagine a new Zord. Imagine their allies coming in. Imagine avatars for themselves, or something. Why isn't something used through the power of imagination? Because again, they get out through Deus Ex Machina, and they ram the castle terminal, and that's pretty much the end of it. And how do they defeat the enemy? They shoot them, Yeah, that's pretty much what happens. They get into this battle, which is rather impressive, but frankly is like everything else we've seen. Nero and Mork sacrifice themselves to restore the HP points for Zet, and they end up defeating them by using the cannon. Uh, Not terribly impressive. Now, don't say, and here's I know what a lot of you are going to say is like the ToQger Rainbow mode, that is imagination. Note that they did not use any type of imagination for it. All they said is, here are our powers, use them. Which, here's the thing, it's like, yeah, I know you got knocked down, you got demorphed, but why don't you get back up and remorph? Because what you're basically doing is put it in the hands of the person who abandoned you. You're not like, I'm going to get up and do this again. It's not like your legs are broke or anything. It's just kind of like, oh, we lost our powers, so here, you use them now. And he goes into the line shift and then becomes the rainbow mode, which is not entirely impressive, to be quite honest. I mean, yeah, he's sparkly, but did it make him more powerful? No, because what does he have that's different? He has Akira's weapon, which, again, Akira just had to hand it to him. But I feel like I've beaten that point to the ground. And let's also point out that turning into ToQger Rokugo should be impossible, because it was established way, way back when Akira first appeared that you could not do a line shift to become ToQger Rokugo. That he couldn't do it. That he actually attempted it, right? Attempted it, put the morpher in, could not transform, and Ticket had said, yeah, you can't do the line transfer. So why was he able to do the line transfer here? Seriously, that's a legitimate question. Why is he able to do it? Because he should not be able to do it. It defies the logic that the series has set up. As somebody else in the review community has said, is I don't particularly care, just remain constant or consistent with your bullshit. And that's what I'm trying to go ahead and say. It's like, they can't even remain consistent with their own rules. They established in the very first episode, you need the rainbow pass to get on the train. Boom! Does not matter several episodes into the series. You can't transform to the Sixth Ranger using a line shift. Boom! Final episode, you can go ahead and do it. Again, every rule that they establish, they break for whatever reason. Maybe they want to get this rainbow thing in, fine, but let's also point out that you only have 6 colors, so you can't actually make a rainbow, because a rainbow's made up of 7 colors, but we'll get into that in the series wrap-up. So, the battle between the ToQger and Zet, it is anticlimactic. They defeat him. Now, something unusual that does happen that I didn't see coming, but not in a good way, is that Glitter is still alive, and she takes Zet's non-corporeal form, because Zet basically turns into darkness, onto the train, reconstitutes him as himself, and then they disappear. Now, I expected them to do that little thing that they always do, that we show the flashback of when she was going to get killed, and then she suddenly says something, he suddenly says something that indicates, oh, by the way, we're not going to do this, remember the plan, and then her appearance is explained to us through flashback. Nope. Every indication at this point was that she was dead, from the scream to the way that Zet glowed and everything, but nope, she shows up out of nowhere, takes him, no reason, at least not a reason I can understand based on her dialogue. Then again, there could be a translation issue, and then they disappear. The end. I mean, that's exactly how Zet goes. I mean, I have no idea what happened there and why it happened. So you see what I'm saying by it's underwhelming? It's like, you defeated him, but you didn't kill him, and now he disappeared, and maybe you should go after him? You got the drill Resha still. Go after him, figure out what he may be planning, or what Glitter's planning, There is an epilogue movie, they could be coming back in that, but, and we'll get to that. And what's also, here's another thing. The final battle, I think, in every episode, or in every series, the final battle should be where we could visibly see the weight of the world being lifted off their shoulders. Where they've been through all this hell, all this crap, and they finally get here, tired, exhausted, physically, emotionally, mentally, and then they just kind of collapse like, it's over, we're done. And you can see that relief on their face. That's not what we get here. It's just kind of like, because again, the battle sequence ends at the end of the second act. And it's just kind of like, oh yeah, we're done. It's not a satisfying resolution. I don't feel their relief at this situation that finally it's over. We don't hear that line uttered, and we don't see it through our characters. We don't see like anybody who's been through finals week in college, the moment that you turn in your final paper, you step outside the classroom, and then just that weight comes off of you. That's what I'm talking about. That is not present in this show. It's not present in the final whatsoever. I don't feel that from these characters. So, does that mean that they don't care that they've won? Are they like, oh, we won. Yay. Is that the way that they're feeling about this whole thing? Because if you don't feel that way, then how am I supposed to feel excited for you guys? I really don't know how I'm supposed to go ahead and feel about that. Um, all right, so let's also take a look at what's going on with the ending. Now, I'm going to admit to something. I think they actually handled the reunion between them and their parents very well. So they return to Subarugahama, and there is an indication. And again, I had to rewatch this, and I'm just. It must be the translation, or I just may not be getting it, but it kind of seems like they want to return to the Rainbow Line and go again. Which I'm not quite sure, again, if that's the way it's supposed to play out, but it just seems that they've defeated evil, they're done, let's go back to the Rainbow Line. Where, again, their whole point was getting back to their hometown, and now that it's all over, they're just kind of like, we did it. Hooray for us. That seems to be the attitude they have. And their attitude doesn't change until their parents show up. Now, the indication is that they did get the letters from the Post Resha, which actually means, if that's indeed the case, and that entire subplot actually meant something, even though it was asinine. But they basically, the parents got the letters and they understand that their children have been ToQger, that they are in adult forms now. And I have to admit, when Kagura saw her mother and father, and mom and dad, she's like, "You can recognize me?" And they're like, "Of course," and all that kind of stuff. And then she just, "Mom, dad." I got choked up. I mean, that's very effective. I really thought that was good. And then even with the rest of the characters, and when they met their families and stuff, even when Wright saw his mother and his grandfather and no father, which and I don't know why he doesn't have a father, but whatever, that was handled pretty well. Um, but everything after that is still, excuse me, is still a little confusing. Because, okay, so this would be the part where Princess Shayla asks them for their coats and their morphers. Um, Rainbow Line doesn't do that. Because here's where I'm kind of running into a problem. Is that the way here's the thing. The reason we close out a lot of seasons is because they've lost everything. There's nothing else left for them. Powers are destroyed. Zords are lost. The home base is gone. So we have to do X, Y, and Z to get back to our normal life. And they're returning to a normal life, but they still have their powers. The Rainbow Line is still ongoing, which I didn't imagine that was going to go anywhere based on the idea of its existence. But at no point do they talk about having to fight the Shadow Line again. That Zed is still out there, and there's possibly more Shadow minions somewhere, because just because you defeated the Emperor doesn't mean that the darkness is gone forever. We don't get this idea of it's an eternal battle, it's always going to go on. I mean, for all the things that Die Ranger had problems with, maybe, at least the epilogue to that series was, yeah, the fight of good and evil will always continue. No matter what we do, there's always going to be a battle to be fought. This ends in, oh, we'll see the train again. Not that there's a looming threat that could attack us without us actually knowing about it, just that we're going to go ahead and see it again. Meaning that they are children, and they turn back into children, which I didn't understand why that happened to begin with, but then I kind of thought about it, like, yeah, the president probably is changing back into children for their own good, but they left them with the morphers and probably the ability to see the rainbow line, call upon the rainbow line, whatever and stuff, and the others they just again, it's kind of an odd finale. It really doesn't make any sense. It's the first act is not doing things logically in Deus Ex Machina. The second act is all fighting, and it doesn't make any sense what's going on there. And the third act is the reunion, and things just kind of taper off. There is no closure to the series, I would say. Okay, yes, they did find their hometown. Check, that was what they meant to do. They defeated the Shadow Line. They defeated Mort. They defeated Nero. Manoir is gone. Schwartz is gone. But Glitter is still out there. She has at least one train. And Zet is still alive. And again, who else is out there that we don't know about that may show up somewhere down the line? It's just it seems like there was another part of this story that didn't get in there. That there was a missing line or a couple of missing scenes or something. It's very confusing to me. Um, yeah. Okay. Now I'm not going to do a series wrap up at this point because here's what we're going to go ahead and do to finish out ToQger. The final ToQger story before we get the crossover with the Ninja is the Super Tokyu Nanago of Dreams, which is the epilogue movie that came out a couple months ago. And because it is connected to the series, and it is, from my understanding from the synopsis, a continuation of the events and some change in character, I think it's right to go ahead and look at it and review it at this time. Um, Simply because, again, it's another story about ToQger, and this is not limited to just the TV show. If that was the case, I would have not covered the Galaxy Line movie, nor would I have done the crossover with Kyryuger. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that episode, that movie next, and then once we talk about that, then we will talk about the final wrap up. I will do a video that is nothing but my overall thoughts of the series, of the characters, of the plot lines. I'm not going to go maybe too much detail. I'm just going to give you guys kind of an off the cuff, this is what I think when I think back about it kind of thing. So I apologize if you want a full series wrap up here. Not going to give it at this point. We got one more movie to go. And as far as the ToQger Ninja movie, we'll take a look at that down the line. But we are going to go ahead and close out ToQger this month and get that all out. All out. So we will be done with ToQger in a few days, basically. So I want to thank you guys for listening. Have a good evening. And the tavern is now closed.